I want to bring in Anjali Kamlani for the very latest. And Anjali, today, just talking about muscle memory, the task force was back. Did we learn anything from there? Any headlines out of having them back in action?
Yeah, Jen. So I definitely just hearing from them, right? Just what they've been working on, kind of reaffirms what a number of them, which have been out in the media, have said. We know Dr. Fauci has repeatedly said that the focus of the task force right now has been state reopenings, and I think that was one of the biggest takeaways. But also, he emphasized the fact that while we are seeing concerning surges in the South and in southern states as well as California, one of the bigger concerns is that if this new resurgence is not hampered, if it just continues to go on, it could result in danger for the other states, including New Jersey and New York, which had already recovered. And so that is one of the bigger takeaways from today. Meanwhile, also just an emphasis on what the administration is doing in terms of cooperation with some of the pharmaceutical companies and what kinds of drugs and treatments are being researched. That was something that Health Secretary Alex Azar touched on. And then Vice President Pence definitely had a message of we're much better off than we were before. And things are, much better now countrywide in terms of the trends of cases. But meanwhile, we are seeing, those concerning cases. You mentioned 34 states are doing pretty well. But meanwhile, those larger cases that are of concern, Texas and Florida, as you've mentioned, really with those concerns of hospitalizations, the younger age group being a large portion of it, and not knowing what that result will be in terms of the death rate in the future, whether or not we will see an uptick 2 weeks from now as a result of these hospitalizations. So all pretty concerning overall, but also just a wait and see. Once again, going back to what you said earlier, we've seen this movie before, we saw it play out, and we've seen a lot of health experts sort of point to not following sort of the same strategy that was employed here in the Northeast.
Anjali, you've been on this beat for us the whole time, and I'm just curious this week in talking to your sources and people that you're interviewing, does it seem that they are calmer, more optimistic about this wave or these hotspots, whatever we're seeing now? As the vice president pointed out, we have learned, we know a little bit more about it. And do you feel that with the medical professionals that you're talking to, that they agree with that sense that we're not necessarily doomed to repeat what happened in New York?
The concern still remains hospital capacity, I think, for the large part. Will there be enough medical professionals on top of medical supplies to help address the situation? I think by and large, we've seen that some of the immediate concerns that, New York City specifically struggled with, whether it came to access to supplies, to testing, personal protective equipment we saw was a major one. And so while those fears have been largely allayed, as well as ventilators, because of the federal action, maybe those concerns aren't as immediate. But when it comes to the simple fact that there is no blockbuster treatment, there is no way to really help a patient who gets to that severe point recover, I think that is still the major concern, is that hospitals will have to deal with that, and medical professionals are still dealing with that.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.